Welcome. This is the first episode of Tasmanian Takeover, brought to you from the Basketball Fix. Make sure you check out www.thebasketballfix.com. My name is Clint Bertenshaw, and I am joined by Jared Duggan. Jared, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm very excited. First one, hey?
Oh, mate, this is like ripping the Band-Aid off. We're just going to get into it. It might be a little bit rusty. It might be a little bit, much like the JackJumpers. Start off a little bit slow in the season, become good midway. What do you reckon?
I think that's right. Yeah, don't expect much from the first 6 rounds, but then after that, we'll be topping the charts.
Absolutely. So, yes, this is Tasmanian Takeover, a show purely dedicated to our beloved JackJumpers, the reigning champions. What can we say? Three beautiful seasons. And now here we are in the fourth, just on the cusp of potentially running away with another go at the chip. And I couldn't be more excited, and this couldn't be more timely to get together, thanks to the boys, and start talking shit about the Jumpers.
How good?
How good. All right, so look, we've got it's a bit of a loose show, this first one. We thought we'd sort of just feel each other out. Jared and I haven't worked together before, or at least I haven't paid him to, say otherwise. But what we might do is introduce ourselves a little bit, tell you a bit about who we are, because if you're going to spend time with our mugs, you might as well, and I suppose also with our dulcet tones, I suppose you should probably hear a little bit about us. So, Jared, what brings you on this podcast, mate?
Yeah, I'm I suppose a self-confessed JackJumpers nut. I grew up down in the island state. I played football down there with the Cygnet Footy Club. I joined the military when I was 18 and moved away. I'm now based in Perth. I've been doing a bit of stand-up comedy for the last 6 years or so. Still not getting any good at it, but but I have a go anyway. And yeah, when the opportunity came up to do a podcast about the mighty JackJumpers, I jumped at
it. Pun intended.
I should say actually that to get into the military, I had to be desensitized against the JackJumper bite because I would go into anaphylactic shock. So no hard feelings against actual JackJumpers.
Fair enough. So, we're going on a tangent straight away. So, how did they desensitize you to the bite?
Yeah, so they actually had to milk the venom out of the JackJumpers and inject it into my bloodstream until I basically had a reaction. And then they build a tolerance up and then wean you off it. And I've never actually tested it because I left the state, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if I was ever bitten by Jordan Crawford, I'd survive.
Or I was going to say, is there any chance that if one of the boys happened to do an ankle again, you could just run out on the court and just take over things?
I never got the superpowers, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Well, mate, I'm really happy to be sharing a podcast with you. Myself, look, massive JackJumpers fan. Loved the NBL for the longest time. Jared and I were actually both saying it's quite funny. He's a Tasmanian who left for the mainland, and don't hold it against me, I'm actually a mainlander who moved down to the island. So I'm an ex-Sydney sider who moved down to Tassie, must be going on 6 years ago. And for a team to be built in the state I've just moved to, of course I was going to get involved. Awesome. And yes, I will admit there is still a bit of purple that runs through my veins for the Sydney Kings, but it's Jackies all the way, and nothing pleases me more than when I get to go to the Kingdome, to Kudos Arena, and sit there in all green and really just stir the shit up out of the Kings supporters. And I quite really enjoyed last year when I had really quite good tickets, and Jalen Adams is up on the free throw line, and I've got a reasonably loud voice, and here I am dressed in all green, and just as he's about to release, choke, And knowing that he missed and stared at me purely for that he had this absolute death glare. Like it was the 100-yard stare. I just loved it. It was fantastic.
There's something beautiful about a quiet stadium when you're supporting the opposing team, I feel.
Oh yes. It's like ammunition for a gun particularly when you've got a nice big loud voice. And look, I'm a big guy, but I'll tell you what, I was sitting there a little bit squirmy in my seat. And then after that, I just figured, well, if I'm going to be evil, I'm going to lean right into it. So it was fantastic. So apart from that, I also do host a radio show on the community radio station down here in Hobart, Edge Radio, a bit of a shameless plug. 9 p.m. on a Saturday evening, I host The Voice of Chaos, which is Aussie heavy music. So my two loves really come together when I get to sit there and do podcasting and talk about the things I'm really passionate about. Music, particularly metal, and jack jumpers. This is all coming together very nicely. So, looking forward to learning a little bit more about you, Jared, as we go, and of course sharing our stories with the Jack Jumper fan base. So, what do you reckon, mate? Should we get into it and have a bit of a yarn about the season so far?
I reckon there's plenty to unpack.
Yeah. So, I mean, we joked about it at the start. It was a bit of a slow start to the season, and I know, you can always tell, I believe, the Johnny-come-latelys who start banging on, oh, no, they're shot, it's not going to happen for them, rah, rah, rah. But if you go back and look at the stats, really, this is our MO.
Yeah, 100%.
And now we're sitting there and with just a little bit of patience and, the grit and grind and trust in the process, as Roth would say, we're now sitting in the six. Not a bad way to be.
So what do you reckon? Seems like Scott Roth's method a little bit, I feel. Maybe, and I'm going to confess, I don't know a lot about basketball. I never watched a game until the Jack Jumpers existed, but I feel like maybe our man Scott Roth uses the first 5 or 6 rounds of a season just to test a few things, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then we get serious around the midway point of the season.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think the fact that one thing I really do like is he doesn't do anything that's overly crazy with the lineup. He will stick to the same starting 5 for quite some time. And if he does make a change, I mean, it's usually quite significant because you're like, oh, what's the movement here? Most recently with Jordan Crawford coming from the bench, which I think's been fantastic because starting with Shawnee Mack now that he's back, we've now got a brilliant player with Shawnee Mack hitting the court to start off with. And then you've got that explosion of JC being able to just come off the bench, run rings around a sort of already tired opponent because the man can move. He's like Speedy bloody Gonzalez.
You'll learn this about me. I'm big on nicknames. I've always called Jordan Crawford Teapot. And you'll hear me at RAC Stadium yelling out Teapot because he's short and stout.
I love it, mate. That's awesome. So I think it's been absolutely massive having Shawnee back. Now, It's no secret I'm a huge fan of his. I mean, it might be because he wears the number 13, and that's been my lucky number since I can remember. But outside of it, for a development player to have that much talent and to be so absolutely critical to a team, it was a real blow for us to lose him over in Singapore. How big has it been having him back?
It's been huge. I was actually thinking about him today and how many Jack Jumpers are no longer with us because Shawnee Mack has come on. You could argue that he's probably ended 3 different careers at the Jack Jumpers.
That's a harsh call, but probably fair.
I know when he first burst onto the scene, it was sort of a choice between him and Isaac White to get that extra that second developmental year. He then came on in his second year and absolutely exploded, and that probably spelled the end for a fan favorite in Josh Majette, if you think about it. And I know that Scott Roth alluded to the fact that he was probably ahead of Craig Sword this year, and probably had something to do with Craig not being with us anymore.
Yeah, and we're going to actually talk about the Craig departing us shortly. I think the biggest impact we've seen, and I don't know whether it's coincidental or whether it is just the nature of the beast, because, the team started to really build themselves up and find their momentum. But I found that at the start of the season, the third quarter killed us. No matter how good we were in the first and second, that I would quite often be talking to the boys, and I've got a few chats that get going when we're watching Jackie's games, and they'd be all like, "Oh yeah, they're doing so well. I'm like, "Yeah, just hang on, hold tight. Third quarter's coming." And sure enough, they'll be like, "Oh, what happened?" And it's like, yeah, exactly. These third quarter woes. Do you reckon it's Shawnee, or do you reckon it's a combination of Sean, the team finding momentum, or do you think I'm just completely off chops?
No, I think you're exactly right. I know all of the talk was around Magnay coming back at the start of the season. Everyone was really looking forward to Magnay, but I always had the thought in the back of my mind is it's Shawnee Mack who we're actually really missing, and I think that's sort of come to fruition. I think it's freed up Teapot to come on and be that explosive player. And there's not as much responsibility on him now to, I suppose, get everything right. It's just come on and do something special. And I think it's had an effect through the entire team.
What sort of impact do you think having Shawnee on the court's doing to help Milt open up a little bit and be able to do Milton Doyle things?
It's really hard to say. They've got amazing chemistry, Shawnee Mack and Milton Doyle. You can see it, but I'd love to see a little bit more of it, to be honest, because at the moment Milton seems to have a good game one week and then a quiet one the next week, and I think his stats show that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. One thing I will say, though, is I do like the fact that when Milt's having a quiet game, he's effective in other areas. And I think that's something that he's so underrated for. I mean, Roth will go to bat for him any given press conference and will say, how he's doing something else. But I love the fact that if you sit there and really watch his gameplay, okay, he might sit there and shoot a couple of, shots that are, well, in some cases, they go up absolute bricks. And then he'll almost like clue on and go, right, I'm switching the mindset. I'm now going into assist mode, or I'm going into defense mode. Sometimes you're seeing him under the rim pulling down defensive boards and offensive boards like nobody's business. And you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. It's it may be my fault, if I'm honest. Milton is my partner's favorite player, and she hasn't. Every time she watches, he has a good game, but she hasn't been watching a lot this year. So I may be able to take a bit of responsibility. There might be something in that.
Mate, I'd be sorting that one out real quick, smart, in
a
jiffy.
Quit her job. Yeah.
Who needs money?
No. We need threes, Milton. That's what we need.
Absolutely. And look, it goes without saying, Mags is having an absolute terror. Mags is doing Mags-like things. I said to you before, when he's up on that ring, Donkey Kong at his best, just tearing it down.
You worry for the Hindus, don't you?
Oh, God, yeah. How different do you reckon the team would have been if it was Mags who got the call up for the NBA and, say, not McVeigh?
Oh, yeah.
Just throwing you a curveball right there.
That's an amazing question, because I always felt that McVeigh's been my favourite player for probably since Josh Adams left, to be honest.
J.A., I miss J.A.
He was so good. I think he just wanted a little bit too much money at the end. But look, I found that Jack was when he was on. He would change games. Obviously, we saw that from his half shot in the final last year. Whereas I feel like Magnay is such a consistent presence on the court. When he's there, things are tight, right? Yes. Whereas I felt like I I felt like Jack could a bit like Milton could go missing at times, and then when we really needed him, he would
I'm
explode.
so glad you say that, because I've been saying that for a while. Because I mean, obviously, there's a lot of hype around. Oh, is Jack coming back? Is Jack coming back? And look, congratulations to the young bloke. He's over there. He's in the NBA. He's been called up by the Rockets. He's being look. He hasn't had a lot of minutes, but the learning over there and being around that whole culture and that environment, it's got to be good for the development. And look, I often say, is it a case of could he come back here and be, big fish in a small pond, or over there he might be a bit of a small fish in a big pond? But either way, it's all part of his development. But I think there's also a little bit of recency effect in that a lot of people think that, I don't know, like Jack was carrying the team on his shoulders. And there was he had some absolute clangers. I'm sure he would admit to it.
Yep.
And it's like, well, no, I don't think Jack being gone from the team is as significant as if we were to have lost Mags, because you're absolutely right. That level of consistency they have when he's on the court. I mean, you even see it when Mags is on the bench. It's like, it's just not that same, level of confidence, stride. Something's missing.
We haven't got enough bullies on the team, I think, is what it is. We need some more bullies.
We need more mongrel. That's what we call on the doctor. Trim. I love when he's being a bit of a mongrel. That's awesome. I love the look he gets on his face, and he's not having nobody's shit.
The doctor, is that what we're calling him?
Oh, I've been calling him the doctor for ages. I think I heard Brent Costello call it one day, and as the doctor. So, when he's sitting there dumping threes or whatever, it's like the doctor is in.
Yep. Love it.
All right, as we're cycling through the team, we know we've had some changes. So it's been announced, last week, earlier this week, I lose track of time very quickly, that Craig Sword is departing ways. Chicken, he's flying the coop. And we've got Ian Hummer in. And in a moment, you can rattle off the bazillion nicknames you've got for him. But what are your thoughts on the change?
Look, you got to start by saying you feel for Craig. I don't think he did that much wrong. It probably just ended that we had too much of the same type in the end. I think Scott Roth alluded to the fact that Shawnee Mack and the doctor probably went past him a little bit. I am gonna miss seeing those rundown spoils that he would do. He seemingly would just leap from half court to spoil a shot. But I think what Scott Roth turned his attention to in the end was that we need a bit more help on the glass. We need a bit more help around rebounds. And I think that's what we've tried to address with the Ian Hummer acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say you're absolutely right there. I will say, watching Sword progress and develop. I mean, one of the things I really appreciated was those threes from the wing, but he just seemingly pull out of nowhere, and it was almost money, absolute money. Yep. If he was in the wing and he got that ball, it was money.
Yep. The last game I went to see at RAC Arena over here in Perth, I remember he turned it on, and he just had a blinder that day. We couldn't believe it, and it was all those shots. He just kept hitting those corner threes, like you said.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts on Hummer?
I'm gonna stay on the fence for now. Obviously, when he first came, I had a look at his stats, and it said he averaged 7 points a game. I thought that's not a lot of points. So I did a bit of digging into his stats over the last sort of 3 years. He'll give us the odd 10 to 15 point game. But like I mentioned before, he's really there for his defensive prowess. A bit of mongrel, I think he'll bring. He's good for 5 to 10 rebounds a game, which is good. So hopefully when Magne's not on the field, he's taken that mantle. what he does bring that probably Magnay's not known for is he hits his threes. If you watch his highlights, he can dob his threes, and I'm not sure. Will Magnay can count to three, let alone shoot them. Do you know?
Oh, look, I've seen Mags drop a few threes, and I almost feel like going to buy a lotto ticket at the same time.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm totally a massive Will Magnay fan. I think he's fantastic. But yeah, his free throws and his threes. Yeah, I wouldn't be putting my life on it. Let's put it this way: if I was playing Russian roulette, I got a feeling I'd be eating lead. I'll tell you what I will say with Hummer. I was watching a few of his different highlight reels that you get on YouTube. And yes, I will prefix this by saying that I get it. You don't go putting absolute garbage up on YouTube. You want people to have a bit of a look at the good stuff. But sort of on the back of his welcome to the team presser, if you will, he was saying that his time over in, what was it? Was it over in Japan? Yeah. That it wasn't. He sounded like he was a bit, it wasn't the finest moment in his career and things didn't quite work out the way. So going back and have a look at his stuff in EuroLeague, I'm getting Jack White vibes a little bit.
Wow.
Don't ask me why, but I'm just getting those vibes of being able to get in, get under the ring, and then when need to, he's able to sit there and take it from the threes, and he's able to sort of disrupt a little bit in that way as well. So I think he's going to be a bit of a all rounder, if you will, someone that will be able to sort of rely on there. And I don't know if he'll be in the starting five.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But I think coming off the bench, he's going to be a real impact player, and he's definitely high energy. He says himself he's high energy. He's definitely high energy.
He say I go full bore all the time. I love that.
Exactly. And look, early thoughts, and this is probably going to be where I'm going to eat my hat later on. Not quite as crazy, but I also got slight Josh Adams vibes as well, with just some of his plays, particularly in the EuroLeague. So
imagine.
I'd like to hope so, because, and JA did some unreal crazy stuff. Like there is highlights of him, shooting midair and dropping to the court and whatever else. And those sorts of nuts. But it's that high energy and almost like, that full ball all the time. Yep.
I love it.
Looking forward to it.
He's got a lot of nicknames as well, which is probably my favorite thing. I actually wrote them down.
Go for it. This is your run.
So Hummer nicknames. This came from Ian himself. You can call him Hum, Humdog, Ian, just the letter E, Humdog Millionaire. That was the best one. H1, H2, or Humvee, obviously relating to the Hummer SUV. I've come up with a few of my own.
Please proceed.
Benedict Humberbatch.
That's my personal favorite.
Hummer's where the heart is. Hum Alone 2, Lost in New York. Bit of a Christmas theme, that one.
You could almost change it to Lost in the Big Apple for the Apple Isle.
Well, yeah, I like that. Or Stifler's Hum was the last one. If you've seen American Pop,
I'm not even touching that one. Nah.
So if anyone wants to come up with some banners, I want to see them at the Doan Entertainment Centre in the next game.
Sensational. Well, that's a perfect segue into let's talk the next game. So we've got Melbourne at John Cain on the 23rd of December. Apparently this is an open air game, which will be interesting. Mean? So John Cain, apparently the roof opens up, so it's under the stars.
Oh.
Now, I'm the furthest thing from a sports player. Yep. If you see me on a court, go and get the first aid kit, because I'm going to hurt myself. And I'm certainly not going to profess that, I can shoot really well. I've probably got the average up there with Shaquille O'Neal.
Right.
But I do have to wonder if an open air game changes the dynamics, particularly for a team like the Jackies, who I don't believe we've ever had to do an open air game.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, so
We did have to
it's
play last week in a rundown stadium in New Zealand, which apparently, according to the commentary at the start of the game, didn't have any aircon. So
that would make sense to the amount of it just seemed like they were continually mopping that floor.
that's probably what it was.
Right.
What was bad about is obviously basketball being on a wooden deck. Mags can't throw the grass up in the air like Matthew Lloyd did before he has a shot. That would
just to sit
that's
there and
what I
just
would
get
want.
the trajectory.
Yeah, just to get the wind.
So, who you got? Do you reckon we've got this one or what?
I haven't watched enough of the Melbourne United this year. They're obviously a very, very talented team. Like in this league, to be sitting first halfway through the league, they've obviously won a lot of games. They are coming off a massive loss to the Phoenix, which I think they were 15, 20 points up at one stage, and the Phoenix ended up coming back and pegging them by about 12 points. I think it's going to be
like a three game losing streak, doesn't it?
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. They're on the back of a 3-game losing streak with that one to Phoenix, so it is a concern. And we're 1-1 with them. So they've won one, we've won one.
Yep.
But we're playing in their backyard.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I honestly can't pick it. I want to put my Jackie's hat on and say we'll win every game, but it depends. If Dellavedova and Goulding get off the chain, and I'm calling it out now, Goulding needs to hand his Tasmanian citizenship back in.
Yeah,
playing in Melbourne when there's a Tasmanian team. This is not how it's done. Goulding.
No, I also question: do we want to continue owning him or what?
I don't think so. I think
he's a very talented player, but I think he also loves to just he likes to feed into the fact that he's almost like the perfect heel in a wrestling match. You know what I mean? Like he plays the bad guy well, I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look, I'm going to give it to the Jackies.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why. I reckon Goulding's meant to be back for this game. They're saying that he should be back for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like the fact that we're really on a tear at the moment. And I think, okay, if we can shut Goulding down and just get up in his business, put a hand in his face and make sure that he can't get off as easy as he likes, and we can keep doing what we do and not slip back into some old habits, I reckon we could have this. Because I think from all accounts, Melbourne's looking a little tired and they tend to not do great when they've been on the road or if they're about to go on a road trip. And I believe they're about to go on a bit of a long road trip. So I think I may be mistaken, but this could be the last home game for them. Wow. So, yeah, and for a bit. Anyway.
By memory's been a bit of a home away from home for the Jackies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we might have collected a championship there.
That's right. I remember that.
That little trophy that we've got. So yeah. All right, so that's Melbourne, 23rd of December. We shall be checking that out, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, and we'll see if I'm wrong. We'll see how many times I've got to eat this damn hat. We shall see. Then we've got the Christmas clash at the Nest, and I got to admit, I am loving these Christmas games. I feel for the players a little bit and the fact that, they're away from their families, but they are sports professionals. And, okay, so they don't get to sit there and smash a heap of ham and turkey and chicken and whatever else, or seafood or whatever else before the game. Or, maybe some of them do, I don't know. But I think it's fantastic to have something on TV on Christmas night to enjoy. And as someone who's not the biggest sports fan, I love my basketball, but I'm not sitting there across all the codes. to be able to enjoy a bit of basketball, I think it's sensational.
It just added something to Christmas Day last year, didn't it? It was.
It did.
It was good to sit there in half a coma after eating all the foods, and yeah, just watch them hash it out. I do wonder if the timing of the Craig Sword decision came into it, whether they were keen to get him back with his family for Christmas if he wasn't going to last out the whole season.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a case of that too. And look, I don't want to read into it too much, but I'd be interested to find out if it was completely all game, like around the game, or whether there was a little bit of some of that real nasty garbage that was going on with the social media attacking of the players and the like, and whether that played into it a little bit at all. I mean, as I say, I don't want to read into it, and there's certainly nothing to say that was the case. But, if you were a player that was sort of, you didn't know whether you were 100% in or what,
yeah,
I think it would all factor in. And yeah, you're right. If you were going to make a move to be able to go home for Christmas, would be the way to go. I will say, I absolutely loved last year's game, even though we lost. I got to be there at the Nest this year. I don't.
Oh, wow.
I managed to get tickets, and it was fantastic to sit there and watch the Phoenix take us on, and it was nice to be able to see Big Sauce knock Mags around a little bit, and Mags give Big Sauce a bit of a knock around, the two big bodies just getting into each other. I would have liked to have seen Creaky play, but I believe he was off with his, might have been a calf or something like that, so that was a shame to see Creaky. But yeah, it was nice to be amongst there in the atmosphere. I mean, the Nest goes off. We absolutely turn it on down at the Nest. I don't know if you've ever been to the Nest. You haven't, mate.
To be back for basketball season the last couple of years, but
if you get a chance, you've got to try and score. And it is hard to score a ticket at the Nest. The atmosphere goes off. And I think it was, even for a game we were losing, it was fantastic. That atmosphere was great. It was a great vibe. Everyone's in their JackJumpers Santa hats, and everyone's wearing bloody really bad Christmas shirts and whatever else. And then, of course, you've got the Christmas jerseys, which I have to say, I think these jerseys this year are fire.
How good are they? I love the ugly Christmas sweater jersey. It's amazing. Last year looked like wrapping paper. They looked like they were presents wrapped up for unwrapping. This year they've gone the ugly Christmas sweater, and I love it.
And you know what? I like the fact, I don't know if this was planned that way, but for the Heritage Round, they pulled out the Launceston Casino, which had the reddy orange kind of shorts going on, and that integrated sort of reddy orange for the jersey. And now they've been able to sit there and lean into the red, and then obviously the green for the Jackies, red and green Christmas colors. I just think it's almost like been really well planned. I mean, whoever's doing the jersey designs for the JackJumpers needs a medal. I think they're 100%. Fantastic. I mean, they're just fire.
But I can't stop buying them. And I'm waiting for Boxing Day to get a home jersey this year with the gold logo.
Nice. Yeah, they're fantastic. I think they look really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing them on the court, seeing if they come off better than an ugly sweater that night against New Zealand. Which
fingers crossed.
I'll tell you what, New Zealand played as bad as an ugly sweater the other night. That was a bit rough for them.
They're obviously a pro air conditioning team. I think that the heat probably got to them a bit. So maybe they'll put in a better performance at the deck where the air conditioning is on point, I'm told.
So what you're saying is we should really go down there and sabotage the air conditioning, and we'd be sweet.
Switch it off. Yeah, switch it off.
Which, depending on how hot it is down here in Tassie, it may not actually make much of a difference.
It might be colder without it on.
Absolutely. And one of the things I have to say, which is really cool about the jerseys, and I only found out about this evening. So here we go. The player-worn jerseys, they're getting auctioned off. and the proceeds going to the Salvation Army. I think that's mint.
Fantastic.
Absolutely love that. So get amongst that. If you're listening to this anytime before the Christmas game, get amongst it. Put in, I mean, it'll probably be a silent auction or something like that. So put in your bids, and proceeds going to a great cause. And I love what the Jackies do when it comes to supporting various different causes. I mean, with the teal round and all that sort of jazz, I think it's fantastic. It just goes to show that they're a team that want to build a solid community and want to support community, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. I might put a bid on Jordan Crawford's jersey, so the missus has got something to wear.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right. In sort of as we're starting to get to the tail end of the show, and I'll tell you what, this got away pretty quickly, actually. I'm liking this. This is fun.
Yeah.
I was starting to worry whether this would have been like tumbleweeds, but, there you go.
No, I don't think either of us have problems putting a sentence together.
No, I reckon we'd both be able to talk with marbles in our mouth underwater. But anyway, outside the nest, there's been a bit of interesting news, which for myself, I won't say it came as a massive surprise. I don't know if you're this close to it, but there's a little team down here in Hobart that I'm a little bit fond of. The Hobart Chargers. You might be able to see the little.
Oh yeah.
Little blue ball there, little blue balls. And last season, a certain ex-Jack jumper, now assistant coach, by the name of Jared Weeks, came across to the Hobart Chargers under a special role, a consulting, coaching role, and was like, oh, yeah, what's going on with this? And now he's just been announced the head coach for the Hobart Chargers.
How good.
Mate. This is phenomenal, and I think this will actually lead to the absolute sensational pathway that they want to develop between the Hobart Chargers and the Jack Jumpers. What do you reckon, Jared?
I love Weeksy. He's always been one of my favourites. We used to call him the janitor because he always looked so out of place on the basketball court. He looked like he was just mopping up one day at the Derwent Entertainment Centre, and someone said, "Hey, do you want to play 5 minutes for us?" So we always called him the janitor or groundskeeper Willie. But that's going to be massive for the Chargers, and yeah, if that relationship between the Chargers and the Jack Jumpers can develop. Wowee, that'll be fantastic.
I just think it's so good to see that we've got, Weeksy played for the Chargers quite a few years ago. And it's quite good to see that with the NBL 1, a lot of the NBL players going into these smaller teams and, showing them their chops really at the end of the day. But it's also a great way for the players to, I suppose, keep up and, keep themselves fit and going. And I suppose, any good machine, you've got to keep it running, otherwise it seizes. And I am loving the fact that we've had a few players come and go through the Hobart Chargers from the Jack Jumpers. But I think now having the Jackie's assistant coach as the head coach of the Chargers, I've got to wonder, are we going to see a few more of the boys sitting on the bench in the upcoming season?
Did I see that our man Clint Steindl is a potential pickup as well?
Could be an absolute potential pickup because he played last season. And what's really cool is his wife Kayla actually plays for the Hobart Chargers women, and was the captain, if I remember correctly. So it's fantastic. I'm actually convinced those two sit there, and the reason why they're such good shooters is they sit there and argue about who's actually doing dinner that night, and they go out there and shoot a couple of threes to work it out. At the moment, unfortunately, I think Cap's eyes been out a little bit. I got a feeling he might have been making a few extra dinners just quietly.
I imagine so.
I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful because I see a lot of the players walking around the local area where I live, and particularly Captain Clint. You'll see him walking through Woolworths and that. And I reckon if he ever got to hear this, he might just come up to me and go, "Yeah, I'll give you. I'm shooting for dinner," and might find a basketball coming at the back of my head just quietly.
Yeah, you'll have to behave yourself, but I'm 3,000 kilometres away, so I'm just going to let it.
Yeah, until you sit there in all green at the RAC and they just sit there and go, you.
Yeah, I know that face.
All right, players to watch. We got the versus Melbourne. Who should we be keeping an eye on?
I want to call out one of my absolute favourites. I love watching this guy go about it when he's in form. My man Majuk Deng.
Yes.
He's been a bit down the last couple of rounds. I remember watching him in Perth. I think it was the last game we lost. And he was just showing a bit signs of being a little bit down. I want his confidence back. I want him to be showing off. I want showtime from Majuk. I want some big dunks. I want his knees around his ears because he's so lanky that when he does a dunk, it feels like all his joints are up here.
Yes.
So I'm crossing my fingers that my man Majuk can have a big game against Melbourne.
Absolutely. You know what? Until you mentioned that when we were talking before we hit record, I hadn't really thought about it. But, yeah, I reckon Juk is ready for a big game. I reckon you're right. He's been a bit quiet. He hasn't quite been as explosive as he has been, and I think he's due. And I think he knows he's due. And, I reckon Juk's ready. So, yeah. I reckon if not Melbourne, definitely the New Zealand game. I reckon we're going to watch him go absolutely hard.
Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. All right, Jared. Well, I reckon for a first show, we didn't do too shabby. What do you reckon?
I reckon this was good. This was good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you like what you heard and you enjoyed the dulcet tones of Jared and I, please make sure you continue to tune into Tasmanian Takeover each week. We're going to try and get this out on the regular, on the weekly. Make sure you also check out all the other podcasts over at thebasketballfix.com and all their videos up on their YouTube channel. Check them out on Instagram and YouTube at The Basketball Fix is the handle that you're going to want to be looking for. The boys have got massive plans to be launching podcasts for all the teams, which I think that's phenomenal, to be honest with you. And it's not just because they've taken us on board. I think there are plenty of news outlets and sporting outlets that sit there and talk all the stats and the figures and all that nerd shit. I think it's fantastic to get fans talking for fans about the teams they're passionate about. So keep an eye out for that. We're just one of many to come on board. I mean, there's obviously 10 teams, so expect 10 podcasts. So head over, give them a follow, give them support, and make sure you keep an eye out for these two mugs for upcoming episodes. Jared, thanks for joining me tonight, mate.
No worries. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Catch you then. We're out.